Hello and welcome back to the Longview podcast. My name is Joe Atkinson. I'm the director of the Evansville NewsLab, and this podcast is a partnership between the Evansville NewsLab and WNIN Tri-State Public Media, where we sit down with the people who are working to shape Evansville and talk to them about their philosophies, their background, the projects they're working on, and the things that they are doing to help shape Evansville. Today's guest, for the better part of her career, has served in leadership roles across the spectrum. She's been a leader in the banking industry, including 17 years at Old National Bank. She was the regional CEO of the American Red Cross. Most recently, she spent a little over 8 years as CEO of the United Way of Southwestern Indiana. In those roles, and maybe particularly at the United Way, where she worked on community impact initiatives and efforts to improve the quality of life across the region, she had a front row seat to many of the challenges facing Vanderburgh County. And when she retired from that work in April 2024, she entered politics. Today, Amy Canterbury is Commissioner Amy Canterbury, representing the 1st District of Vanderburgh County as their elected county commissioner. In that role, she's helping oversee county government during a period marked by significant financial pressure, from the impacts of state property tax reform to ongoing infrastructure needs, public safety demands, and major capital projects such as the county's jail expansion. We're thrilled to have her here today to talk about not just how the county is managing these challenges, but to give us the long view on how her experience in private business, in nonprofit leadership, and now in public service has informed her approach to the issues facing Vanderburgh County. County Commissioner Amy Canterbury, welcome to the Longview.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, thrilled to have you. And just let me start by asking, I just read your resume here,
Yes.
or a good portion of it. You have a long history of leadership in this community. So when you retired from the United Way, why politics?
Great question. Great question. So I'll back up a little bit into the United Way and
Sure.
tell you that the time there when I came to the United Way, I made a commitment to the board. We were going to make change, and that was in how we funded and working for the impact and the good. We had to right-size the organization, so OpEx, and then I committed to a succession plan. So I had my successor in play, and it was so we were ready with Amy Mangold to move forward, and I wasn't really ready to stop. So I feel like what we were doing at United Way in partnership with EREP and the talent initiatives to understand the needs, population growth, economic development, the health of our community, and upward mobility of our citizens, and quality of place. I was in that work since 2018, and I didn't want to stop. So I felt like there was the bringing government into that work, to me, and my experience in it, felt right.
A couple of those topics are actually things that I'm going to want to ask you about as we get a little later into this. But I do want to ask, while we're still opening up here, you are still fairly new at this. You've been in this role for about a year and a half now. Is that right?
Year and a half, yes.
Have there been things that surprised you as you stepped into the role about county government, things that you've seen now that you're sort of on the inside that maybe you didn't expect?
Somewhat. It was nice to learn that we have a really great department heads and people who are the experts. So the subject matter expert part has been so helpful. I did expect to learn a lot. I did not know nearly as much about roads and bridges and drainage as I ever thought I would even learn about, right? It's been so nice that Commissioner Elpers and Commissioner Gable and I really can candidly discuss, make decisions. The surprise is probably that it's not been nearly as stressful as I would have hoped. So I'm not looking for more, but I'll say that out loud. But, I do think that my expertise from business and nonprofit leadership has played well.
One of the things that I found when I took my previous role in the mayor's office was that those first couple of months, people used the cliche, it's like drinking from a fire hose. I almost felt like it was more like drinking from like 6 different fire hoses shooting in multiple directions.
I would totally agree. And, I would say that in the first 6 months. And so, but just sitting with department heads, working with our county attorneys,
right.
And just meeting people and understanding and letting them lead. I know that when I started at the Red Cross and even United Way, I had folks at my door saying, how do I, what do I, when do I? And I said, keep doing what you're doing until we decide that there's something different we should do. You know the job. I'm new here, right? So I did drink from the fire hose at the Red Cross, literally. And then same thing with United Way. So, it's in learning is, I do believe in lifelong learning, and I think that's what makes it very interesting and fun. Honestly, I'm enjoying it.
Good. And that would do, I chimed in because that did sound very familiar to me, that like talking to the department heads, learning what they do, and then, trusting them to do their job, and because they do know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
At least if you've hired well, they do, right?
That's right.
So,
and, and then I think our predecessors had done just that.
are there things about the role that you're in or about county government in general that you feel like, I kind of asked about surprises, but things that maybe you didn't understand coming in, or maybe more specifically that you think the general public doesn't understand or misunderstands about the role of commissioners and the role the county plays?
I'd say zoning ordinances, and then moving that even further into usage was something that was an eye-opener to me. We have some properties really literally in the city and in the county that are zoned commercial, but there's been a residence there for 50 years. So there's some cleanup in some of that, but also a misunderstanding of even though it might be a commercial or a retail space, there are usage codes. So you might only be able to do certain things there with manufacturing, per se, or retail space. And even there's things to restrict the usage of retail. So it's so much more complex than I ever would have imagined. And I've worked, again, with not just folks in the county government and the department heads, but some of our constituents in the building associations and contractors and realtors, just to try to help mold this and make it easy to do business. So I think the business background in me does help to support pro-business. And sometimes we're more restricted than we should be, and we've been able to loosen some of that up. And I'm really proud of that.
Has there anything that's been harder about this job than you expected it to be, or that has been a particular challenge that you just didn't see coming? And on the flip side, is there anything that you found that is just so much easier than you thought it was going to be?
It's still a learning curve. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's the challenge. I wish I knew more than I do. It's just the time that it takes to learn and understand. I think easier is the fact that I've just gotten a lot of support even from constituents and partners and business, again, the business community, so on and so forth. People are just so happy to get a return phone call. They're thankful. And I'm like, that's my job. Or right. I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, that's why you hired me. You hired me to go find an answer. I think folks literally, when I tell them I can get you an answer, I don't know the answer probably most of the time. I can get it. You may not like it, but I can get you an answer, because finishing has always been something I've been a strong suit of mine. Let's get to the finish line here. There's something else coming. And then sometimes if the answer isn't what they want, there might be something we can do to make a change, right? So it's like solving a puzzle. So I think that's probably what I enjoy too. So surprises, no, because I'm kind of, it's kind of in me.
Do you find yourself asking a lot of times, or when people ask you questions, do you find yourself saying, I need to go find that answer?
Yes.
I don't know it off the top of my head,
yes,
but I will get back to you.
I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part, is the commitment to get back and to do it. So that's where you gain that trust of, again, partners, constituents.
I want to talk a little bit about your specific transition into the role. We've kind of talked about sort of the big picture, as a new commissioner and that sort of thing, but as a nonprofit leader specifically, you spent years, at least the 8+ before you ran for office, identifying community needs, trying to find resources to meet those needs, to build collaborations. In government, those resources are often finite.
Right.
And I expect you have to say no more often than you would like to. Can you talk about that shift and going from that community role where you're trying to pull in more resources and find additional things and meet those community needs, and maybe, I don't know if it's frustrating or what, where you get into government and that resource just isn't there?
Well, it was that way as well, very much so in the nonprofit space, right? So you're raising money and we're funding and we're supporting the needs of the community. So you learn to do with what the resources you have. And, I would tell you, I learned how to say no in banking before I learned how to say yes. In lending, so like if someone needs a loan, you learn how to say no or negotiate. How about this? And so it's really all in many times in the negotiation of it, of the no per se. Resources are complicated, but even with United Way and Red Cross and in government, that's where we go look for grants. We look for other means. We work with partners to find those. And our department heads have a lot of that work on them. And I even, in part of my platform and something I still think we could do is how do we support that? How do we support finding those dollars and making sure that and we can gain more resources that way?
Is there a consideration, and I apologize, I don't know how the county works when it comes to grants. Is there a grant resource office? Is there some consideration of looking at, again, just ways you can support that more strongly?
Something that I would like to see us do. We do not have one grant resource office. And is that really something we need to do, or do we need to contract for that and work with partners? Sure. So, we do have a lot of partners that we work with, particularly in the roads and bridges, who do find grants, and they help our county engineer and work that way. So I'm thinking there's more to this than I even know yet. We'll probably be talking about it with Senate Bill 1, but where is that? So, and a lot of things changed. A lot of things changed with the last administration in the state and obviously within government overall, but they're different resources. And we need to learn about those as well.
You made mention of Senate Bill 1, or I guess what is now Senate Enrolled Act 1.
That's right.
That's right. And you have come in at a sort of particularly difficult time where legislation like that is cutting revenues to cities and counties and schools and libraries. And it's not just SEA 1, but that bill is expected to have a significant financial impact. But that said, people still expect their roads maintained. They still expect police and fire protection. There are always so many things that need attention and only so many dollars to go around. How do you, and by you I mean the government in general as an entity, how do you manage that balance? How do you decide where the money goes and where it doesn't?
Very good question. The great part about it is we've got a really strong partnership with our county council. And they have the purse, okay? We sign the contract. So we really have to work with them together. They've done a really great job managing the funds, and we do have some reserves, yet that's what they're for, right? We have strong credit rating. The point there is, again, how might we find more money in grants? How might we work to do that? But they do so much of that work in juggling the finances. Our department heads, they worked really hard in the budget process this past time, and it was really with their leadership to say, here's where we can trim to save. I'd be thinking maybe other governments or other offices, it's if we've had it, we want to keep it. And I think we are really trying to be good stewards of the dollar. And, that was something that we really talked about in nonprofits, being good stewards of the donor dollar, not to be wasteful. And I think that's where we can do it. It's not that I think that there's this mountain of waste, but yet I think we've really done a great job in partnership with other officials and department heads. And we'll have to do a little more. It'll be tough. It will be tough. Today we're looking at roads into 2032 and 2034 and bridges, right? So some of that's secure, so that's helpful. And through this, we're finding other avenues to help and balance this out. Wish I knew more about the bill.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we don't know really how the impact is going to be. We've had several conversations, and a lot of our associations that we partner with, we're still just trying to get the answers. And so that's a little frustrating. So if there's anything frustrating, I'd say we just don't know everything yet. That
particular bill gave I think a $300 property tax rebate to the average household, correct?
Mm-hmm. And assessment values go up, right?
Right. So are you hearing from people at this point saying my property taxes are supposed to go down, and how do you answer that question?
I haven't, but I noticed it on my own, right? But I'd say the answer is property values are going up. So it's something that I don't think, by hearing that it was going to be a rebate, no one really, again, the general public didn't think that all the way through. I didn't think that all the way through.
Right, neither did I.
So again, there are there's surprises just like that. That's like, okay, wait a minute, checks and balances, and it's not on purpose, but it is the way it works, and to understand that. I think is helpful.
So you last year, as a response to Senate Enrolled Act 1, the county commissioners, if I remember correctly, did was it a hiring freeze, froze new hires, and asked departments to trim budgets. You mentioned that you felt like that went well. Can you talk a little bit about? And I'm not going to ask you for specific examples because that would be putting you on the spot in a way that I don't want to. But can you talk a little bit about what the response to that was, both the request for the hiring freeze and the request to cut budgets, and how much farther can that approach go before you start running into, okay, now we're getting to the point where there's really no more fat to trim? And
that's a really good question that I'm not sure I know the complete answer to.
Fair.
Okay. I do know that, so, there have been, again, instances where we've needed to have some work done, and there's money in there's money in that budget.
Right.
Maybe that had been allotted for something else, not robbing, no funny things, but just we have this, and let's reassign those dollars. We've done that with IT, and again, our county engineer, where there's also some opportunities with some changes in the way we can reallocate TIF money by using TIF money from one district to another, which will be hugely helpful, particularly in the University Parkway TIFs, because we've got some money in some of the other TIFs, and now we have some opportunities to grow that, right? So I don't know the answer. I don't know how far we're going to have to go yet, but again, we just didn't really have a lot of complaints or a lot of issue there, and we've still have been. I feel like all the departments have been able to maintain and do terrific work.
Now the one, and I'm not going to ask you, where are you going to go with this, but I do know that the one, I guess, remedy that they built into the bill was an income tax, local income tax increases. At what point do you have to look at that? Is there a time frame where you have to look at it and say kind of yes or no?
Great question. And I think until we have the answers, that's when we will know if we have to go further.
Fair.
That's not, no, we don't have this, we have to raise taxes yet, and we certainly don't have the desire to do it. While we do have lower taxes than many, we still have issues that we want to make this still the quality of place that people want to live and play, right? So in doing that, I feel like we want everyone to feel that we are looking out for their best interests before we have to make those tough decisions.
Right, because cost of living has always been a benefit here, right?
It has.
And when I moved here, that was one of the things that people talked about was the cost of living was great. Great place to raise a family. I felt it was Evansville's unofficial motto when I moved here 25 years ago.
Agreed.
And that cost of living was a big piece of that. So, I know I'm not going to say, are you going to raise the income tax? Because you guys haven't made that choice yet.
We haven't, and I'm certain we're going to have to cross that bridge. We just really haven't put a time on it, and I do really think it has to be when we get these answers around the bill. So looking at the into the future, you talked about population growth, and that's a kind of a nice segue from us talking about quality of life and cost of living. Vanderburgh County isn't seeing the same population decline that to some extent the city has. I know the city had a little growth in 2024, 2025, but then the trend has been downward before that. Vanderburgh County has been growing, albeit modestly, for the past couple of decades, but it's also aging. Nearly 20% of the population is 65 or over. As a county, even as a region, are we doing enough to attract younger people to come to this area, or the younger people who are here to stay here? If you say, are we doing enough? I'm going to say no. Because if we were, we would be growing profusely, right? And we do need population growth. More people to pay taxes keeps us from having to increase taxes. Right? We need housing for these folks to come. We need a place that they do want to play. So, the world is changing. I'm not quite there at that 65, but I'm getting there. So the things that I looked to do and wanted to see is not necessarily what the next generation wants. They want dog parks. They want a place to play around their apartment and things to do. And there's trails. And so we're making, I think, great progress, but I would tell you, are we doing enough? Not until we see the growth. Housing is great. We've got some great housing projects that are coming in with new homes, new apartments, condos, and whatnot. Look, even in the city. So I think the attraction for that is huge. But I have my daughters, they did move away and they're back. So some of that is coming home and having that support system that is hugely important. But understanding the math, and the math is, and I really just what the results of the stats is, we need a housing, we have good jobs. With EREP, they're working, we've even got, there's programs there that are actually attracting folks to come here for some money, right? With a little payout to stay here for a little extra time. Those are great ways to experiment and see how we attract. And if it works, let's keep doing it. If it doesn't, then maybe we got to change the model. But literally, we have great jobs. We've got a lot of jobs that are open. We're working on the housing and the quality of place.
So is there any particular piece of that you feel is missing right now? Like you said, we're working on the housing, we're working on some of the quality of place and the trails and those sorts of things. Is there an ingredient that you feel like that we can identify and say we should do better with that?
I'd still say we should do better with in all of that. So I'm sorry, I don't
also fair.
That sounds probably like a politician, and I don't mean to. And also, we just need to make sure that folks that are coming here know we're open for business. We have got to be pro-economic development. We need, again, more business here, businesses who pay taxes, eliminate that burden on our constituents. So I'd say in the county, we don't have a lot of ready commercial space that's just ready to go, move in ready. And that's been, I would say that with our partnership with EREP, we hear of situations where we do lose those deals. Yet there's a pipeline there that's incredible. And some of it's even under non-disclosures that I don't know about. But right. I think that partnership has been very, very good. And I see more things coming. So I think that's going to be fantastic. There's some infrastructure things that we could be doing, water and to the northern part of the, all in water and sewer and things of that nature. Right now, I'd say that no one really is probably interested in any more road construction, yet those dollars needed to be used. So I think for folks to understand even that part, while that may not answer this question, the money was available through certain grants that had to be used in a certain amount of time.
Right.
If we don't use it, we lose it. So if you're anywhere around the city or the county, we're using that money. Right?
Yes, absolutely. I always joked when I worked in the mayor's office, I always joked that the two things that we heard the most were, why don't you fix the roads? And why is there so much construction on the roads? It was
exactly.
both of those things at the same time.
Exactly.
So I don't think people would question necessarily that the money is being used and that we need to fix some roads. I think that's absolutely an issue. Talking about EREP, EREP is the regional Economic Development Corporation, right? And I feel like there are probably a lot of people who don't draw a distinction between what the city does, what the county does, sometimes even what the state does in terms of government functions. So let me ask you, do you see the biggest challenges facing residents here? Are they county issues? Are they city issues? Are they regional issues? And how well structured are we to solve those issues that kind of cross the jurisdictional boundaries?
I think that's a great question.
It was actually probably like three questions.
It is.
Sorry, I can break them up if you want.
It's okay. I mean, so I think EREP for folks, yes, it is the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership. And the good news about that is that they are for the region. Mm-hmm. And so that is where we've garnered so much support and help with I-69 and the bridge, because that does have, while they don't have Henderson County in their support, we're very cooperative there, right? So getting the bridge. I think we're unique in that, and because of EREP, than other, and so I think we're ahead and better than other communities, in my opinion, because while we support them and they support us, it is a collaborative effort, and we get accolades in the state for our collaboration in the Evansville region. Now, challenge, I'm going back to growth. I mean, we're landlocked a little bit in Vanderburgh County, but if a region, if even as a region, if EREP can support something in Warwick or Gibson or even with Henderson as we work those, that's more people in our region to help support us. And so even with EREP, they're bringing in events. We've got the Explore Evansville and the things that we've done with consolidating our management of the Ford Center and Old National Events Plaza with those folks collaborating to get events here. We want people to come here to stay. And a lot of the events we have today or in the last several years are day events where people go home.
Right.
So, so again, not just attractive and being attractive in population, but being attractive to those who want to come and stay and play.
I will say, as somebody who's has children in youth sports, the Deaconess Sports Park,
Yes.
the Gable Soccer Complex, some
Yes,
of those
we
things
use
have
those too. That's incredible, right?
Yeah.
So, I think in the growth there, and even on Green River Road, with supporting those parks with other retail space and such, and the trail is good. It's just all coming together. It puts it all to a plan to say, again, we're open for business. We want folks to come here to live and have that quality of life, and yet we also want people to come here and play and stay.
If you were to look at Vanderburgh County 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you saw a more successful county, what changed? What is the thing that changes that 5 years from now, 10 years from now makes you say, we are more successful, we have achieved that thing that we needed to take the next step?
I think it's population growth and families, because then our community is growing and we're thriving, and so to me, population growth is right at the top of that list, and that's includes keeping our children home or having them come home or boomerang back, what have you. But we want to be, if we're thriving, that's where it is, because people are here, and that just supports to me the entire space of community. We have wonderful jobs. We can we support more and higher paid jobs? Absolutely. That's with population growth. If we have our folks being skilled up and having upward mobility in their lives, there's a lot of support. That includes that as well. So we've just had a lot of great things happen with the medical school, and again, downtown is growing. That's been a 20-year project, right? So if we look back and think, well, we could do more, yes, we can, but look from where we came. We're still on this positive momentum that in 5 years we have grown, we have more commercial, or more jobs, higher paying jobs. Again, that's and housing and population growth to me go hand in hand. And we got to have the place for them to be here to live and play, and we got to have the folks to do that. So I think by having, it's kind of like build it, if they will build it and they will come, and I think we're in that process.
So looking at that and saying, if we want to get there, the obvious question is, how do we get there? But I'm going to tack onto that and say, how do we get there in a time where we do have some economic challenges, because the idea of build it, we will come, that does cost something.
Right.
So how do we...
Thank goodness that we've got... Well, go ahead.
No, I was just saying...
interrupting you, but a lot of that is obviously investment of the businesses as well, right? And again, there are opportunities in the TIF districts and some things to provide some level of incentive that, while, again, that's got a lot of build it, and then we receive some of that maybe later or over time. How do we, again, one of the things I ran on in my campaign was, we just have to let everyone know that we're open for business and we're welcoming, and we want to say positive things about our community. And if there are things that we need to correct, we need to work on them, but in a positive way, So we don't want the stigma of, oh, it's Evans, or it's, we want to be open for business. We want to be welcoming. We want folks to come in with trust and say, this is a great place. These people are friendly. They've got it going on. And I think it takes the whole community to do that. It's not an Amy Canterbury show here, right? It's government, it's business, it's education. It's the whole community. And E is for everyone, right? We need to feel it. Taking that
to sort of the natural extension, is... You're right. It's not an Amy Canterbury job. It's not a Joe Atkinson job. It's not a one-person job. It's a whole community job to say that we're open for business, to say this is a positive community. Do you think we're doing a good job of that right now as an overall community?
I think there's work that could be done. I do. I mean, I think we're a hugely collaborative community. Again, I'll go back to that because in my experience in banking and then also in the nonprofit space, I had fellow executives all across the region and the state, and folks were surprised that I can reach out to our state senator. Folks were surprised that I could reach out even to our mayor or our county, or that we're working together on a project with EREP. They don't have that level of opportunity or trust, I think, in one another to pick up the phone or to even make that phone call. And I can call the mayor today, and she answers my call, and we talk. And I think folks are surprised about just how maybe it is our friendly nature and maybe a little southern part, that again, we can always do better. There are always negatives. There are always people who are not positive, but the best way to do it is to kind of put that here. And then if there's a problem, let's talk about it and unpack it and see what we can do to resolve.
And I wonder if a piece of that also is that we're just like that right-sized community for that, right? It's like we're not so big.
We don't need to aspire to be in Indianapolis. We just need to aspire to be a welcoming, growing region, and do that. And again, same thing with our county commissioners. We meet across in Southern Indiana, and I know them, and we talk about things. What's happening here, and how can we do this better, and how do you do that? So, just leaning in on to the experts, I think, and continuing.
Do you think people are surprised partially that like you mentioned, you can pick up the phone and call the mayor? There's such a partisan environment in the nation and sometimes in the state at this point, but that a Republican county commissioner can pick up the phone and call a Democrat mayor and they answer. Do you think that surprises people?
I do, and I'm surprised that it does, because I would say that generally speaking, we don't really think politically locally, and maybe we have more so in maybe the last 10 years with some of what's going on in the nation. But I mean, city council and county council and county commission and the mayor's office, we can work together. We don't agree on everything,
right? Of course,
but you don't in business, you don't in life, right? So
my wife and I don't agree on everything. So yeah, right,
right. So. But I do think people are surprised by that.
Getting toward the kind of the last of the questions that I have, but one thing that I wanted to ask you is that, not that there's a crystal ball that you can look out in the future and say, like, this is coming, but, there are always kind of those things in the back of your mind when you're working in government, like, we're going to have to deal with this down the road, we're going to have to deal with this down the road. What is one decision that Vanderburgh County is going to have to make in the next few years that maybe we're not really talking about yet, that the public isn't talking about yet, even if they're aware of it?
I think that something that we need to be thinking about is how we change with the I-69 bridge. And I think there's good in that. I think it'll create some growth opportunities that we haven't thought of yet. There may be some opportunities or some decisions and hard ones to make, perhaps in data centers. We've had solar come up. What else? I don't know what else. But how do we as a community want to take on some of this will be challenging, right? Where do we put a big truck stop? Do we get a Buc-ee's? Do I want that in my backyard, right? So there's a lot of the decisions are what's going on in our backyard and how do we grow with it and keep our community safe, and everyone working together moving forward.
I'm going to touch on I-69 just a little bit more, if you don't mind me going down that rabbit hole a bit, because I-69 it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity.
It's an amazing opportunity because infrastructure, new roads across the country, they've been put in play years ago. We have this is a fantastic opportunity that we have I-69 coming through Evansville.
Right, and we're going to have it crossing just north of us. It's going to cross 64. You've got kind of this like crossroads of America kind of moment there. Are we doing what we need to be to prepare for the growth opportunities to take a full advantage of what that? I
don't know that I can say that.
Okay.
I do see that EREP does so much of that economic growth and development for us. So I think the partnership there that calls for a lot of some of those answers. I don't know that I can give you that crystal ball answer to say yes we are. Because they are thinking about it. Now, is the whole community thinking about it? That's probably the bigger question.
Fair. Okay. The last thing that I ask everybody when they come on this podcast, and I want to thank you again for taking the time to come
Thank
here
you.
for answering these questions and just kind of, like I said, helping the community understand what's happening and shaping the county as we move forward. But the last thing that I like to ask people, and it sort of plays into what we were just talking about, I'm going to switch this a little bit. I always say, what is one thing that you love about Evansville that maybe people don't know about, that maybe will surprise people? I'm going to let you expand that beyond city limits about Vanderburgh County. What is one thing you love about Vanderburgh County that might surprise people, might be something that other people don't think about, but if somebody comes here, you'd say, this is what I love about our community?
It's the people. It's the people. And so I would say that about Evansville and the region as well. Geographically, if you don't get out and see the beautiful rolling hills on the northwest side, and again, I'm a farm girl. I grew up in Kentucky, so I love to see corn and soybeans and farms. But we're both. We're a city, and we have the country vibe as well. And Burdett Park. That's a huge thing. It's huge for this community, and they're thriving. So those are some things, but again, it goes back to the people. People care, and they genuinely do, and they're genuinely just good people.
Thank you very much again,
Thank you.
Commissioner Canterbury, for being here. Thank you for answering our questions. And thank you to everybody who's out there listening to the Long View. We will be back next month with another edition. Until then, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the podcast, and we will look forward to seeing and speaking with you next month.